What's going on, everybody? I'm back with another video. This video is going to be looking at the match between Leeds and West Ham and how Leeds ended up on top of the match in a typical Bielsa ball fashion. Now, before we get into the tactics of the match, check out both my books. They're online on Amazon and there's links in the description below. Also, be sure to check out Keyframe. It's the software I'm using to make this video, and there's a link to that in the description as well. Let's get right into the tactics of the video. So to start the build-up, Leeds built from the back using two central defenders split by Melier. Now, in their build-up phase, especially as the game progressed, as we see now in the 81st minute, they became more and more direct, but they built in a typical 4-3-3 with their fullbacks typically going at the same distance as the holding midfielder. So this would create a 2-3 build-up with good, strong diagonal passing options between the first and second line. However, West Ham's defensive shape matched up quite well in their 4-2-3-1 with three more advanced midfielders, then able to easily use man orientation to press the ball, which Leeds then responded with going more direct and trying to get in behind and exploit the space around the holding midfielders of West Ham. Now we see Leeds entering the midfield third and how they build from the back against West Ham's 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1 low mid block. So we have our back four from Leeds with fullbacks going a little bit deeper and the weak side fullback playing a little bit more narrow to close down the space and prepare for transition. But with a single pivot, the two forwards would alternate who's covering the single pivot and who's pressing the ball. So they would often use cover shadow and dual access with help from the midfielders to set this central pressing trap around the single pivot of Leeds United. So by not using quite man orientation but having multiple players create access allows the single pivot to look free but have multiple players in and around this player that if the ball should arrive to him, they can press and potentially turn the ball over in one of the central corridors. And then here we have the staggering of the midfield because of the two offensive midfielders of Leeds pinning the two holding midfielders and Declan Rice just off our screen into a deeper area, creating a very balanced offensive structure. When Leeds would try and progress into the midfield third and they used aggressive central defender tactics, driving the ball through the half space, this created some potential in progressing via a free man. With our two forwards of West Ham and a central defender being aggressive after a circulation of the ball, the two forwards would be drawn further forward and it would create a free player via the holding midfielder. This created a lot of opportunities for third man movement, especially if the wide midfielders in this 4-2-3-1 would be drawn further forward, creating space between the lines. So with the central defender driving forward, a free player in the middle of the field, they would then find connecting points to access this player and go forward as fast as possible. Now West Ham in possession of the ball, we have our back four playing from the back against the Leeds man orientation in their high block. As we see, Leeds players are very much man oriented at all times, with the most man-oriented system in the Premier League. Even the players deeper, just off our screen here, the holding midfielder picking up the attacking midfielder of West Ham. Where the option orientation from Leeds comes into play is with the central forward of Daniel James, cutting off circulation to the weak side and back pressing the central defender, driving into the midfield third. Here, Cresswell stays deep, but puts West Ham in a very difficult position. Now, the key about breaking a man-oriented defense is targeting where you have a numerical advantage. So as we see here, Rafinha is the player responsible for two players because Dan James is taken out of the picture when the central defender drives into the midfield third. So by this player then being in a 2v1 situation, this could be the source of progression. But this is defeated by Cresswell's deeper positioning and doesn't offer a progressive option to take Rafinha out of the play. So we could see easily Cresswell, if he's positioned in line or just in the blind spot of Rafinha, this could create a perfect 4 versus 3 situation with the central defender to then create a third line passing option to then break the Leeds press and progress higher up the field. But because of the deep positioning, this isn't possible, and Leeds are able to isolate possession and win the ball higher up the field. Now we see Leeds being more aggressive with their pressing, with their wingers inverting using their cover shadow to block access to the fullbacks and create direct access to the two central defenders of West Ham. Now West Ham had the tendency to use Lanzini in a deeper position in their build-up, having a player of his qualities on the ball in a deeper position to find more progressive passes. This allowed Declan Rice to go higher up the field as more of a number 8 and drive through the half space higher upfield. But when a press is this man-oriented and this aggressive, it can become very hard for this central midfielder to find the ball directly from his first or second line of build-up. And we see here with Cresswell going higher upfield, it makes it harder for Leeds United to press the ball, because with this amount of space, the cover shadow becomes less and less effective, although in the wide area, he's a little out of the play and doesn't have access to the ball. If he were to come inverted more into the half space, as we see from a Chelsea or Manchester City, their fullbacks and wingbacks do this quite well. If he were to become inverted, he would create superiority between Leeds United defenders in their mid-block, offer a solution to this man-oriented press. Now, when we go deeper and later on in the game, we see Leeds United even at times end up with a back six. And this is as a direct result to the players West Ham commit further forward. So this comes from a high fullback, attacking midfielders, and wingers inverting. So this narrows and deepens the Leeds United defensive shape, so they always maintain a numerical advantage at the central defense position. So now we see the center defender from Leeds as the free player, whereas everybody else is man-oriented. And just off our screen here, the right defender is responsible for the wide winger of West Ham, while the players higher up the field are compromised because of the driving central defender and being attracted to the ball. We have Rodrigo, who is deeper on the ball with Declan Rice, but he had to jump because Dan James was taken out of the picture by the jumping central defender with the ball. So now we have the opportunity for the third man concept to be played from West Ham with a simple third line passing option, who then could set the ball for Declan Rice facing forward in behind the press of Leeds United. But this often wasn't the case, and the work rate from the Leeds player was quite good, to where they could find solutions by dropping quick enough to avoid this dangerous situation. And that's where we're going to wrap up the analysis. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.